Hello, my fellow carbon-based life forms. Welcome back to DepDiv podcast, where we dissect the world like a mad scientist with a coffee addiction. 2025 is almost over, which means it's time to reflect, celebrate, and awkwardly ask ourselves, did we actually survive another year without accidentally letting AI take over the economy again? So, first, from me to you, Happy New Year. May your resolutions survive longer than your Wi-Fi signal during a Zoom call, and may your AI assistant never judge you, loudly. Today, we're diving into the tech industry in 2025, the year AI became both our savior and our bank account's best frenemy.
Okay, so check out this image. It was actually generated by an AI, which is kind of fitting, right? It's a perfect metaphor for what 2025 was all about. You're looking at a city skyline. I think it's supposed to be Seattle, but the buildings, they've turned into server racks. And honestly, that's exactly what it felt like. This abstract dream of AI suddenly became very real, very physical, and started changing our cities and our economy in a huge way. It was the promise of a whole new world of innovation.
And this promise, it wasn't just a small thing. It was framed almost like a new gospel at the beginning of the year. The big idea here wasn't just, hey, faster computers. It was this concept of free intelligence. The thinking was that this would basically democratize innovation for everyone, everywhere on the planet.
In this quote from Bill Gates, man, it just nails the whole vibe. He said, "Now what's happening is intelligence is becoming free, and that's even more profound than computing becoming free." Think about that. He's comparing it to the PC revolution, which made computers affordable for pretty much everyone. But he's saying that making intelligence itself free, that's a whole other level, a completely different kind of revolution. And really, that was the dream that kicked off this whole crazy year.
But you know how these things go. That amazing dream pretty much immediately slammed headfirst into a really confusing and, let's be honest, pretty brutal reality. For every big, soaring promise about free intelligence, there was this painful economic twist happening on the ground. A tech veteran called it the enigma of success, and that's a perfect way to put it.
All right, nerds, let's talk 2025's tech circus. AI exploded this year like an algorithmic supernova. It's everywhere, writing code, generating art, predicting stock prices, maybe even plotting how to replace us at happy hour. And look at this slide. This is the core paradox right here. On one side, you have the dream. Massive, and I mean massive, spending on AI infrastructure. Companies were just pouring billions into chips, servers, the whole shebang. The good news? AI is revolutionizing productivity. Tasks that used to take hours now take minutes or seconds if you know the right prompt. It's like having a caffeinated intern who never sleeps, complains, or demands a raise. But then you have the reality, widespread tech layoffs. It was the best of times and the worst of times all at once.
So what gives? Why the huge disconnect? Well, the really important thing to get is that this wasn't some sci-fi movie where robots are walking in and taking jobs one for one. Not yet, anyway. The bad news is that companies are pouring money into AI like it's a magic money tree, and the ROI isn't always, magical. Some firms are financially strained, battling innovation fatigue. The pressure to invest in these insanely expensive AI systems meant they had to cut costs somewhere else. And what's the fastest, easiest place to slash the budget? Yep, people.
And get this, for all that money being thrown around, the return on investment was not great. A study from MIT found that a whopping 95% of generative AI projects either totally failed or just didn't produce any clear return on investment. 95%. Can you imagine spending billions on something that, for almost everyone, wasn't paying for itself yet? This single number really explains that immense financial pressure, that innovation fatigue you kept hearing about.
So the story of 2025 is dual-natured. AI as a revolutionary tool, but also AI as a wallet-draining drama queen, which is basically like giving your cat a credit card. It's fun to watch, but terrifying in practice. And this quote from a tech veteran really puts it in perspective. They said, "The enigma of success is a polite way of describing the brutal reality of tech cycles." They're saying, this chaos isn't some unique failure of AI. No, this is just what happens. Every big tech shift goes through this brutal cycle. A ton of hype, a ton of money, and then a really painful shakeout before we figure out what actually works.
And sometimes things just got so absurd it was almost funny in a really dark way. This quote from Bill Radke just perfectly captures it. He said, "Amazon ordered their workers back to the office. Are you here? Good. You're laid off. Not all of you, just the humans." It just perfectly highlights that wild clash between corporate speak and the harsh reality of what was happening to the people in the industry.
Okay, quick pause, fellow nerds. Before we get back to the existential dread, let's appease the algorithm gods. If you enjoy this podcast, if you like sarcasm served with science, tech chaos, and questionable life advice, go ahead and subscribe, leave a review, and share it with that one friend who pretends to understand blockchain but secretly thinks it's a type of Lego. Every click helps us survive the AI apocalypse. All right, back to it. So all this chaos, it wasn't just about jobs and money. It started to change the very skills you need to make it in tech. And that led to one heck of a provocative headline that really grabbed everyone's attention this year.
There it is. Coding is dead. This was one of the most popular headlines of the whole year, and you can see why. It's a shocking thing to read. For decades, the mantra was, learn to code, learn to code, learn to code. That was the golden ticket. So what the heck changed?
While the director of the University of Washington's computer science program, Magdalena Balazinski, gave the perfect answer. She said, "We have never graduated coders. We have always graduated software engineers. And that's the key distinction. What's dead is the rote, mechanical part of coding, just translating a perfect design into lines of code. And AI can do that pretty well now. But what an AI can't do is the really hard stuff, the creative problem solving, the system design, the architectural thinking. That's what a true software engineer does. So the skill isn't disappearing, it's just leveling up."
So to really bring this home, let's zoom in on one specific place, Seattle, one of the biggest tech hubs on the planet. What happened there in 2025 was pretty much a perfect snapshot of all the conflicting signals and the deep uncertainty felt across the entire industry.
So what was actually going on? It was super confusing. On one hand, you had the Wall Street Journal running big stories saying Seattle was grappling with a future of fewer tech jobs. But at the exact same time, you look at data from moving companies, and Washington State is still a top 10 destination for people moving in. So how can both of those things be true? It tells you that something complex is happening under the surface. Maybe the kind of jobs are changing, or maybe other parts of the economy are just that strong.
And that's because even with all the layoffs and the weirdness, the fundamental strengths of that region are still rock solid. I mean, you've got Microsoft and Amazon, the titans basically driving the global AI push from right there. You've got a ton of investors, a killer startup scene, world-class research coming out of UW, and a really deep healthcare tech industry. The foundation is absolutely solid, even if the walls were shaking a bit this year.
And this quote, wow, it just captures the wild difference in outcomes. While so many people were getting laid off, some individuals were making absolute bank. The CEO of a company called Vercept said this after her co-founder left to go to Meta for what was reportedly hundreds of millions of dollars. It's just a crazy reminder that in these tech cycles, fortunes are lost and made, sometimes on the very same day.
So where does all this leave us? What's the new normal? Well, as the dust is kind of starting to settle, we're beginning to see the next phase of the AI revolution. We're moving past the initial crazy hype and into real-world, large-scale uses. And the really crucial shift to understand is this. We're moving from individual productivity to organizational efficiency. The first wave of this Gen AI stuff was all about helping one person do their job faster. You know, write an email, debug some code. That's cool, but the next wave is about making an entire company run better. Think about it. One person writing an email faster is a tiny gain. But an entire company using AI to automate its whole supply chain? That is a total game changer.
Microsoft's Brad Smith shared a perfect example of this. He asked a Copilot agent to create a super complex report on a legal issue that was decades old. So step 1, he asks. Step 2, the agent goes out, researches everything, synthesizes it, finds all the sources. And step 3, a 25-page report with 100 citations is done in 15 minutes. That is not just helping one person be more productive. That is fundamentally changing how a whole organization can operate.
So, as we close the chapter on 2025, AI has dazzled, confused, and occasionally bankrupt human beings. Tech continues to revolutionize life and maybe sneakily drain your checking account. And here we are, alive, slightly smarter, slightly poor, but definitely sarcastic enough to survive the next wave. This brings us to the big question. Is this endless cycle of hype, cost, and consequence the real price of innovation? And a massive holiday and high-tech shout-out to FireflyHaku, because just like AI, FireflyHaku makes everything look effortless, keeps the chaos under control, and occasionally judges our questionable life choices, all while producing a flawless show. To you, dear listeners, thank you for navigating 2025 with us. Here's to 2026. May your algorithms be generous, your Wi-Fi strong, and your AI assistants only slightly judgmental. Happy New Year. Maple out.